A single dad found a little girl collapsing at the bus stop. What happened next broke his heart. Hook. Some moments in life stop you completely in your tracks. They find you on an ordinary Tuesday morning, in the middle of your routine, when you're just trying to get through the day, and they change everything you thought you knew about strangers, about kindness, and about what it means to be human. This is the story of a man who almost kept walking, and thank God he didn't. Subscribe prompt. Before we dive in, if stories like this move you, stories about real compassion, real courage, and the quiet magic of human kindness, make sure you subscribe to Heartfelt Moments, hit that like button, and drop a comment below, telling us about a time someone's kindness changed your life. Your story might just inspire someone else. Now, let's get into it. Main story: Marcus Davis was a 38-year-old single dad living in Columbus, Ohio. He worked the early shift at a warehouse on the east side of town, which meant he was up before the sun most mornings, packing lunches, braiding his daughter Nia's hair, and catching the 6:15 bus, just to make it to work on time. Life wasn't easy for Marcus. It hadn't been since his wife passed 3 years ago, leaving him to raise Nia alone. But Marcus was the kind of man who kept moving. He had to be. He had a little girl counting on him. That cold Wednesday morning in February, Marcus was running 2 minutes late. He jogged to the bus stop on Maple Avenue, coffee in hand, earbuds in, mentally running through his to-do list for the day. The stop was mostly empty, just a few bundled-up strangers staring at their phones. Marcus barely looked up. That's when he saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, sitting alone on the cold metal bench. She was wearing a thin pink jacket that was nowhere near warm enough for a February morning in Ohio. No hat, no gloves. Her backpack was slumped between her small sneakers, and her head was drooping forward in a way that didn't look like tiredness. It looked like something was wrong. Marcus pulled out one earbud. He watched her for just a second longer, and then the little girl slid sideways and nearly fell off the bench. He was by her side before he even made a conscious decision to move. Hey, sweetheart, are you okay?" He steadied her with both hands, kneeling down to her level. Her skin was pale, and her lips had a faint bluish tint. She was shivering violently, and her eyes were glassy and half open. "I'm cold," she whispered. "I don't feel good." Marcus looked around. No parent, no guardian, no adult paying the slightest attention to this tiny child who was clearly in distress. His heart clenched. He immediately called 911. While he waited, he pulled off his own heavy work jacket and wrapped it around her small shoulders, tucking it tight, the way he did with Nia on winter mornings. He sat beside her on the bench, keeping her upright, rubbing her arms to help her stay warm. "What's your name?" he asked softly, trying to keep her alert. "Sophie," she murmured. "Okay, Sophie, I'm Marcus. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." He learned in broken, whispered sentences that Sophie lived 2 blocks away with her grandmother. Her grandmother had fallen ill that morning, and Sophie, not knowing what else to do, had tried to walk to school by herself. She hadn't eaten breakfast. She'd been sitting at that bus stop in the freezing cold for almost 40 minutes, too scared and too weak to move. Marcus stayed on the phone with the dispatcher, kept Sophie wrapped in his jacket, and talked to her the whole time, telling her silly stories about his daughter, asking her favorite color, singing a little bit of a cartoon theme song that made her smile faintly despite everything. When the paramedics arrived, they confirmed Sophie was suffering from early-stage hypothermia and low blood sugar. A few more minutes in that cold without help could have turned into something far more serious. Marcus rode with her to the hospital because he simply couldn't leave her alone. He called his boss and explained. He missed his shift. He sat in that waiting room for 2 hours until a tearful, frantic woman rushed through the doors. Sophie's aunt, who had driven from across town the moment she got the call. She grabbed Marcus's hands with both of hers, crying before she could even form words. "You saved her." The woman finally managed. "You saved my niece." Marcus shook his head. "I just stayed," he said simply. "That's all I did." But that wasn't all he did. He gave a shivering little girl his jacket. He called for help. He held her hand, talked to her, kept her present and warm and calm. He missed a day's pay money he genuinely could not afford to lose, because walking away from a child in need was something his heart would not allow. Word spread through the community, the way good stories sometimes do. A local neighborhood group raised enough money to cover Marcus's lost wages, and then some. Sophie's grandmother, once recovered, baked him a pie, and wrote him a letter that, by all accounts, made even the strong stoic man cry. But what stayed with Marcus longest wasn't the attention or the gratitude. It was the moment Sophie looked up at him from under his oversized work jacket and said, "You didn't leave." Such a small sentence. Such an enormous truth. Closing, kindness doesn't always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it looks like missing your bus. Sometimes it looks like giving away your jacket on a cold morning. Sometimes it looks like simply staying when it would be so much easier to keep walking. In a world that often feels loud and rushed and indifferent, Marcus Davis reminded us that one person who chooses to stop truly stop can change the entire story. You have that power too, every single day. Spread kindness. It costs you nothing, and means everything.